So we are officially live. This is Reflection Artist Live podcast, episode number 44. And it is September 8th, and we have special guests with us today. Andrew Werkheiser, who is the current CEO of Koch Chemie USA. If you haven't heard of Koch Chemie, well, today you will. And it's a brand that has been brought to the US, and Andrew was on the forefront of that. And he has quite the background. He, has with his family. They have 25 years established in the body shop industry. So he comes from a background of working from the substrate up, to say. And then, of course, jumping into the detail world, which some of you may know him from his former position with G-Technic as CEO there. And then, of course, he transitioned over to Koch Chemie. So we want to hear his story, how he got involved, and his love for the detail industry, especially growing out from the body shop side of it. And of course, what he has brought to the table for us as detailers in the detail industry as a whole. So, Andrew, thank you for taking the time out to be on the podcast. And we definitely appreciate, of course, everything that you've been able to do for us within the different brands you've represented it, for sure.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. And thanks for having me on today. It's I know we've been working with Clint on making it happen. So I'm excited to be here and appreciate it. Yeah, definitely.
Now, before we get started, I do have a volume where you need to speak louder or raise the volume up. One of the two. I'm not sure how that works on your end with your audio setting, but either or. So once you adjust that, dive into telling me, how it all got started. I mean, even back from your younger years in the body shop, helping out and getting into all that, and how that inspired you.
Yeah. Is that better volume there?
I like that. That's
cool.
Good.
All right. So, we, my family, in the DNA is automotive. That's just been my entire life. So in the beginning there, growing up, it was, I'd say at least, the first few years of my life, it was pretty much no knowledge of what was going on in my parents' life, of course, as most of us. But, as I started to get a little bit older there and around 95 or so is when my father, and actually now my father-in-law, started my dad's company, which was called Single Source. And so that is basically, a long story short, for those that don't know, in the body, the paint body industry, there's multi-level. It's pretty advanced, it's been around a long time, so it's a little bit different than what a lot of us are used to in the detail world, but we have different levels like WD, so warehouse distribution, down to a distributor, of course, the manufacturer, and then of course the end user. So we'll have multi-channels, going through the selling process, to where a manufacturer would sell to a WD, who would then sell to the guy that would be what I would consider a Home Depot for a body shop, which is what we were. So they started out in 95 with bringing a brand over, which some may be familiar with. It's still on the labels. It's called Nexa 2K ICI, were kind of the two names that it went by. They found the brand. My dad and everyone that he started the company with actually were working for a company called Akzo Nobel, which is still around today and still a good solid paint line. But they were unhappy and started looking elsewhere. And that's when this company jumped on and saw an opportunity with them and started to support them and help them grow in the US market. And what a lot of brands started to realize, especially US based, was, which I know specifically, European brands like to kick the butt of US brands sometimes. And for them, they saw the difference, the quality, the pricing, everything was a match. And so they started running with that brand. PPG then realized, hey, we've got a problem here.
Yeah.
We've got these young boys coming in and taking our business, our territory, and really doing a good job. So they ended up buying ICI Nexa, which is still, they have a line still, Nexa 2K, with ICI Auto Color still listed on it as a part of that brand. So they've got, just like detailing will have a consumer and prosumer and professional, similar, not in the sense of a consumer, but similar to, entry level, commercial, mid, high, and super high, the
Kind of fit the budget scenario.
yeah, the Chip Foozes of the world and the Flake, and, just it gets all crazy, right?
Yeah.
So it still is one of their lines, and it's a pretty premium line along with Global that they carry. So very good paint, not the water-based, waterborne that a lot are switching to now, of course. But anyway, so PPG came in. PPG originally back then was a setup like Sherwin-Williams is today. So very we do it ourselves. We've got our own stores. We sell everything on our own, which you can kind of see. I know, gosh, what was it? 3-4 years ago, they really started a push again for PPG on the home and residential side. Those stores, they tried to get those. I don't know. I haven't really seen much since then, but the automotive side since back in the day really shifted to needing distribution. And in the beginning, what had happened was they had told the group of guys over there at Single Source, hey, we don't need you. We don't want you to be a part of this. You need to close all these stores. We'll let you keep a few of them, but we already have people in these areas. Which, as a business owner and a developing young business, you can imagine losing half your revenue virtually overnight is
ouch,
quite a terrifying thing. Well, the good news is only a few months in, realistically, and especially within that first year, they realized it was a big mistake, and did everything they possibly could to get them back into every one of those stores that they had made them sell, as well as help them open multiple more. So they went from about 15, 20 stores, maybe 25. They bumped them down to about 10, 15. And then when they got them back into it, they got them settled around 30. And this is all while, I was young and growing up and being surrounded by it. And of course, as every kid, I loved what my dad did, not understanding the intricacies of it and for lack of a better term, the boringness of it, I guess, in a sense. I would always get frustrated with him because I'm like, why won't you go to my career days and talk about he's like, I sell paint. Like, who gives crap about paint? So I never understood it, but I loved it. So I would go anytime I could. And actually, it was really funny. My now wife used to also try to go to the warehouse and ride around on the ladder and, stuff like that locally. And of course, never really crossing paths at the time. But from a young age, mixing paint to make cool colors and, just having fun with it and just trying to be as involved as, a lot of kids like to be involved with their dad, right? I hope my son's like that. What the difference being, I think what we do is fun. So my dad was kind of like, nah, it's pretty boring.
Business.
Yeah. So a little bit different, but I grew up around it. I always wanted to be a part of it. I don't think I ever really, of course, now that I've got, finances and we're building a house and all that, of course, now I would have thought differently, but back then I never really thought about, taking it over or anything like that. I just wanted to be a part of it. And I'll never forget towards the end there, it was one of their sales parties. They had just surpassed 215 million, and it was a huge moment. They were at 75 stores, and it was a big celebration. I remember sitting there on a balcony looking at the company and asking my dad, did you ever in a million years think that you would be here right now with this place rented out in City Walk, Orlando, celebrating that figure or even celebrating at all? And he's like, absolutely not. He'll tell stories. We laugh all the time because I always try to get information out of them because it only helps, right? It only helps learn when and grow when you hear what people went through. And they've got stories about back in the day. The only thing they would spend money on was cigars for their cigar room. They had a cigar room back in the day. One of the offices was dedicated, and they wouldn't spend it on anything else. So much so that they had a corded phone. And that corded phone was duct taped to a broomstick and kept out in the hallway. And so whenever someone got a call, they would pretend like basically they had a secretary.
Yeah.
and hold on one second. They put the phone on hold and move it into whoever's office took the phone call. And, you know, so went through everything from that to just sitting on pallets waiting for orders, and, you know, just, and built that thing. So it was cool to be a part of that, and more than anything to gain mentors. Of course, I have the best built-in mentor in the world, you know, in my father, and my father-in-law. You know, he retired in 2001, but just an incredible business-minded asset for such. You know, the nice thing is they're so differentiated between kind of the paths that they took later on, and to get all of that is huge. And I think what a lot of
So
people,
they work together?
oh yeah. So you know, I won't say it exactly how he said it, but back in the day, they used to meet at my in-laws' house in Roswell. They used to live in a place in Roswell, Georgia, and they used to meet there plotting the start of this company while they were still working at the other company. And my father-in-law was the one. He's a very numbers-oriented guy, loves running numbers and figuring out if it's worth it and not, you know, blah blah blah. So he was actually the one, and I won't say it how he said it, but he said, well, hell, it's a 50-50 shot. Let's roll the dice. That is how the company officially started. And they started jumping ship and making it happen. But yes,
risk and reward, right?
They worked. Yeah. They worked together since 95. So it was 95, 2001. My father-in-law retired, and then he got into a bunch of other really great passive income style businesses, and just really enjoys life. And you know, and now of course my dad's retired out of that. But you know, yeah, so it's interesting, you know, how that all works out. But so I had been a part of it. I worked in a few of our, you know, larger body shops that we serviced throughout my summers in high school and college. Started getting involved in kind of the warehouse side of it for the business, to get to know it and get to learn it a little bit. And what was cool was we had 600 employees, but even though that was going on, and that was the setup, it was a very close-knit family style group. And so I was able to be given another, you know, mentor who basically was over my career path. So at that point, you know, when I actually started getting a little more serious in the warehouse side, and getting serious about maybe wanting to work in the business, I kind of gained that mentor who then basically took over as if, you know, he was in charge of the company and in charge of me and, you know, my growth and everything like that. So while that was kind of developing, I was down in college at Mercer University in Macon, Georgia, Central Georgia. And the good old Lord, if you will, started playing in my life a little bit in a bunch of ways. And, you know, one of those big ways was I found a love for medicine and emergency medicine and the fire side of things. And, you know, while I was in school, became involved with the emergency management agency down there. I begged and clawed and got my way into the local North End 911 ambulance company. So did that for you know, the remainder of while I was in school. And you know, all the while
you see a lot with that. Oh,
when I started was the year before they got rid of the Bloods and Crips finally. So it was lines divided, one side of the town, one color, one side the other. Just a very interesting place. But the school, the city, I mean, they did a really good job of cleaning things up, making it safe. And of course, my wife saw some of the uglier sides of it, so she never moved back. But I don't know, it's always got a piece of my heart down there. It's a special place. And yeah, when you see the corners that no one else sees, it opens your perspective to life and to what we have and the opportunities that we're given. It definitely makes you reevaluate things for sure.
And appreciate.
Yeah, 100%. And, you know, so it was interesting because while I was going through all that, so my freshman year, and then about a year later, my sophomore summer, I had a heart attack, both times. And it was viral related. So it gets, you know, it's all crazy right now with COVID and everything. It's all a big question mark for me because viruses are not good for me. So,
wow.
And I, you know, got out of it, survived it twice. The second one was actually on a study abroad in Australia. So my first, I put it this way, I spent 6 weeks in Australia working for a university. the first week I was in the hospital, and it's still 10 out of 10 recommend go to Australia. That's how great that country was. So I loved it there. It was a blast. But again, it's one of those parts of my life that readjusted, reevaluated, and really makes you think about who you are and what you want to be, and you know, how you want to live the rest of your life. And for me, that segment and that portion of my life, a lot of people think that that's why I got into EMS and fire, but that love had kind of already cultivated from my high school summers of being involved with summer camp and being around volunteer firefighters. And so it already kind of cultivated, but it certainly pushed me over the edge to get you know, my mid-level licensing, and to get involved in anything I could on the emergency side. So when I graduated school, I decided that I wanted to give my true love a try, and I stayed an extra semester trying to get through basically nursing school. I was thinking about nurse practitioner track or flight nurse or something like that. Of course, good thing it didn't happen, because my wife won't let me on a helicopter now. So that and it whooped my butt, you know. And I, don't get me wrong, I always respected nurses when I would bring patients in, you know, off 911, but it is a whole nother level when you see the education they go through, because biology and chemistry are not for me. They're absolutely not for me. I was in an argument with a professor about why I needed to know what it looked like in a microscope to do CPR. It just, you know, it didn't work. It didn't click. I didn't get it. Whole new respect. And so I tried, didn't work out, but part of the plan, right? And said, you know what, I got a business degree. I better put this thing to use. And right as that was all happening, I was literally almost about to sign on the dotted line for FEMA, because they had a really cool program. I think they still have it, where basically you
Building caskets.
No. Now, yeah. Yeah, they
I'm just joking.
Go that route.
This is on the web. Watch them getting shut down, red flag.
Yeah. So they it was a program which, you know, so you were on the front line of any disaster. So they would call you. You had 24 hours to get on a plane, and then there was no return date. So, you know, you could be there a month, you could be there 6 months. You have no idea. But it was what I wanted to do. It was on the front line. It was being there first, not just going there as an ambulance and transporting from one hospital to another. It was truly, you know, helping and helping and helping. The heart wanted it, but then my wife finally gave in and went on a date with me. And after all these years of trying, and the heart was stronger for her. So I decided, you know what, let's hang it up. Let's go into business and see what we can do there, and use the degree. And, you know, at the end of the day, I realized a very important statistic, especially in Georgia, unfortunately, massive shortage of EMS personnel in Georgia.
Oh, wow.
Always. And it's been for years. I mean, probably 10, 20 years. So I told myself, okay, if it doesn't work, you got a job waiting. You've got it waiting. It's there. I mean, it was so bad to the point where even where I was working in Macon, they offered me to pay for full paramedic school they'd have me on the road as a medic for 1 to 2 years. And then they promised me a supervisor position with my own take home Tahoe. And of course, as like a college kid, you're like, oh my God, take home Tahoe,
dream,
like sirens, like, yeah, I'm in. But there was a couple of things, you know, aside from falling in love with my wife, you start to realize there's certain things that my personality type doesn't like about that world. And, you know, one of those being a cat. I don't like the idea of maxing out your potential and kind of living that. I don't like settling. And so for me, that was also a reason why I chose business, at least for a little while. And pretty much anyone that knows me knows my goal is to make as much money as I possibly can to be able to retire and get back on the truck until I'm the one that's on the stretcher. I mean, that is my goal. And you know, not to be confused though, I love what I do. I love being involved in business. I love especially this detail world that I've come to know over the last few years, and how involved that is and intricate that is. I want a long, good career at Koch Chemie, and hope that we, grow leaps and bounds here. But it definitely, at the end, my retirement plan is getting back on the truck and keeping things going until I can't no longer. So, yeah. So all that being said, I moved back up to Roswell, actually, and started working for Single Source, and started at the warehouse. Worked up to assistant manager, and started running the store, and then was given basically what we kind of refer to as like a fulfillment role. So anytime someone was on vacation or needed something else or needed to take a day or whatever, I would go in and help run those stores. We were on a very we were very flexible in terms of what people were allowed to do and owning their own position, but we also had a very good, solid system and base and way of running things operationally. So for the most part, you could really step into any store. It wasn't anything special that I did being able to do that. You really were able to step in and keep things moving until things were sorted or whatever it may be. So I did that for a little while, and it was a great portion of experience and knowledge. And I think, something that I always tell people that I think it's taken for granted is to live in the moment of everything that you get an opportunity to do, because you never know what that will do for you later, and you never know what that could turn into and play into. And I learned that at my ambulance company, because thank God there was a really good owner there at the time, and it was a requirement. The minute you stepped in that business, you had to work with marketing, you had to work with HR, and you had to work in the dispatch center. And so you got to experience, and there was no better way to experience why a dispatcher moves you at 2:00 in the morning from one post to another. And you're like, I'm literally going to murder this person when I get back to the station. I just want to sleep. And then vice versa, when the dispatcher's made to ride third rider on the ambulance, to understand those reasons and to be able to experience someone else's position. So when I got to really get into that and experience other stores and other issues and honestly, even other languages for certain areas of our stores, and just to see the differences they had. You had a store producing the same potential revenue as another store, yet they're selling a significant amount of units more per the store, because it's just a lower income, lower spend on the overall repair of a vehicle in one area. They're doing just as much volume, but selling twice as much paint, right? So, one person selling the high line, one person selling the low line. So all of those lessons really came together for me and helped me to understand that there are so many aspects to a business, and especially one that's national or multi-location. There are so many aspects to really be able to dive in and understand why and how, things are done.
Fast food places do that all the time. They accommodate the demographic or geographic area that they're in by switching items on the menu to accommodate, to help drive revenue.
Exactly. So, and I still to this day encourage it. And even here at Koch Chemie, we really try to get people involved in other people's shoes so that they can see the why behind it, and not just think that someone's requesting something because they feel like it. And I'll carry it through, anything that I do. And like I said, hopefully we'll have many, many years here to grow this team and to get involved in anything, that we can diversification wise. So, I fell in love with the whole kind of traveling thing and helping other stores. And there's definitely a side of catching things, right? So there's excitement and realizing there's, money found or missing things that need to be addressed, or so that really I took a liking to digging in and cleaning things up while I maybe was out in the field, and so that then rolled into a new program that we started on the corporate level, which was a regional manager style position. So we started kind of breaking out our areas into a handful of stores per. and I was offered the opportunity to take one of those over for the Southeast, and I split it with another guy named Josh, who again, phenomenal person, and just been in the business a while, and I learned a ton from. And so we would each manage our stores in this Southeastern region, and then also help each other out when we would go do audits and inventory counts and things like that. And again, I love the position. I loved being able to look at a store and look at the numbers and realize what was right, what was wrong, being able to implement new things, saying, hey, my store over here is doing this. Why don't we try this here? And seeing the impact and effect of that. Being able to balance against, all sorts of metrics between population and, average spend and average income to figure out how many people we needed, how many trucks we needed. It really became fun. I really started to kind of dive in and enjoy it.
You were able to execute those things because that company had such a strong standard operating procedure and foundation of that operating procedure that everybody played by that book, that it allowed you to make those changes in each store, each region based on what was needed.
Yep. Yeah. And even from the top, that allowed flexibility to be creative and try something for a minute to see if it worked.
Very cool.
That's also huge. I think that a lot of organizations miss out on when, you've got all these talented people. It's a saying of mine, I don't want anyone working for me that isn't better than me. They have to be better than me in something. And I will tell you all day long that every single person that works for us is better than me at multiple things. And you need to have that mindset, I think. Why would I want someone who's not as good as me or almost the same as me or the same as me in every aspect of our business? That doesn't do
much stress, right?
Yeah, that doesn't
all the weight on your shoulders.
Yeah, it doesn't create anything. There's no flexibility there. There's no creativity. It's not how I think a business can thrive, right? So I'm always the first to admit, hey, we build our positions to keep the company going tomorrow, no matter what. And we always try to find people who are better than us at something, because that's how we grow. That's how we become better. And that's how we take advice. We learn from our people. Right. So it was a very fulfilling experience to start to see that and live it. And, so through that, then kind of stepped up to an area position, a little bit more, coverage and a little more responsibility. And then the life altering, I guess, career altering move ended up being a national division that the president at the time tasked me with. And originally started as Avery Dennison. We were kind of starting a partnership with them to potentially look into the possibilities of a film or some sort of replacement for repair work. Not necessarily an easy thing for sure to make work versus paint.
Yeah.
But we were still interested in the add-ons and the accessories that we could potentially push. And for us at the time, we were on a massive major track for diversifying. So I was running that division. We had another person running paint booth repair division and maintenance division. We had a paint booth installation division we bought. Parts. We bought a parts location that had 4 locations that sold bumpers, mirrors, everything. We paint, and the margin still to this day is eroding, and you have to diversify and find ways to keep making money and to keep supporting your staff and people. And at the end of the day, if you do it right, you'll make more money, right? I mean, that's the goal than you were making. So in that, I was tasked with a division that I ended up naming Alternative Coatings. And so we were really kind of messing with Avery Dennison and messing with what that could be and turn into for us. And ended up going to a show, and I will always give him credit. We went to Road Atlanta in Braselton, Georgia. And I'll always give Chris credit with Zero Defects detailing. He was the one that walked up. I saw he had just parked his van, and on the side, and keep in mind, I mean, this is how out of it that I was and how uninvolved I was. I saw a van that said Southeast Mobile Detail at the time. That was his name, Chris Kessler. And I said, Mobile Detail? And I looked, I saw the van, and I was like, man, that is a really good idea. That's really cool. And we had a 40-foot trailer, a truck, 2 cars that were trailered in open, and a delivery vehicle, a bread truck, UPS truck. And they looked like hell because it was raining and it was all muddy back there. And so I was like, hey man, would you like, could we like pay you to wash this stuff off and make it? He's like, that's what I do. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so great. I'm like, we need all your information. Like, this is so cool. Like, I wonder if we could stock some of this. And, I started kind of getting into it and realizing there was a good potential there. And then he ruined everything because he walked in with initially a Ceramic Pro brochure. And that is how it all started for me with the ceramic and detail side of the world. And of course, there's, we won't get into it, but all sorts of claims and things that get you excited, right? And so you start looking into it. So we started, working on some things with them and looking at what we could do potentially with our market and our body shops. Again, it was about diversifying. What can we do to add revenue to our guys and in turn add revenue to us? And still to this day, I carry that mindset forward, because if I can get any one of our guys, and then we're working on getting our network started and built, if I can get any one shop in our network to add, I don't care what it is, PPF, window film, glass repair, anything else, chip repair, if I can get them to add that, and they don't necessarily need maybe an additional person, or maybe they do, but they can add that additional revenue to their business, there's only one thing that's going to happen. They're going to grow. And if they grow, then maybe they are able to get that next shop and that next bay and that next employee to help correct. And at the end of the day, we all grow together. Yeah. So if you can help your people grow, period, not just grow in polishing and compounding and, detail, if you can help them grow, period, I think there's room for everyone involved to grow. And I kind of saw that there and was taught that there. And so long story short, I started to look kind of at the overall process of a company, like CP versus others that were out there. And someone we were working with was kind of messing with G-Technic. And I started to see the potential advantages of working with something that wasn't as much involved on the time side of things. And could potentially work over fresh paint. So that's where kind of those G-Technic conversations started rolling. And all while that was happening, we were, and I knew this, but it had happened multiple times before. So all while that was happening, we were in a pretty serious negotiation to sell the business. And it got to the point where everything was frozen. So we, no more acquiring of lines, no more assets being purchased, sold, nothing. So it was all frozen, which told me it was pretty serious. Pretty
about
serious.
There, yeah.
Yeah. And so I had made the decision early on to say, you know what, this is, while it will no longer be my father's, this is an opportunity to be a part of something that he created and to help grow it and to maybe still be a part of it. And maybe one day, be in the upper ranks of the new organization. And so that time came and it officially sold, and it was sold to a company called National Coatings and Supply, NCS. Gentleman that owns that is named Temple Sloan, billionaire, perfect name for a billionaire. And, just an incredible business mind. He originally had started and sold CarQuest. And so he had that, he had NCS, he had American Welding. I mean, just a conglomerate of, beautifully crafted and strong companies.
Serial entrepreneur.
Yeah, big time. And, so it was cool to kind of be a little bit involved in that side and learn a little bit about him and the things that he did and decisions he made. And as that all developed, you could tell though, and he wasn't super involved. I mean, he's involved in his business, of course, but it really is, up to his people, which is how it should be. And they, things were real corporate. I mean, it started to really get to that non-family feel. And I think, at the end of the day, that kind of comes down to your setup, I think. So, we had 600 employees doing 200 and almost 50 million a year. They were only a few more million than us, but they had 1,800 employees. So three times the employees for, not a significant bump in revenue. It becomes a process and hey, the light bulb's out. I got to email the department that the light bulb's out. I got to get quotes on 2 light bulbs and then email another department to make sure the quotes are okay. And then I can order it, and then I have to pay for an installer. I can't do it myself. So it just like, it was, it changed completely from what it was.
Yeah.
And the day that I decided it was enough was someone had come up to me and said, hey, what's going on with, XYZ at corporate? And it was the first time in my life I had said, I don't know. And that was when it hit me that I said, you know what, I don't want to be I want to be a part of something that I know the answers to. And that, not necessarily, it doesn't have to be a small business, but I want, back when I started, our delivery drivers, our hotshot drivers knew what the plan was for the year. And were requested and pushed to strive for it, because we truly saw it as a team, and every puzzle piece, fit. So as that happened, I decided, I'm going to start looking elsewhere. And by that time, I had fallen in love with Avery Dennison and their setup and their film, and I mean, just everything. I just fantastic business, great people, and they had a Southeastern position open. And of course I was young and just into the industry. So I pulled out all the stops. I was trying everything I possibly could to attract attention to myself. And it didn't go anywhere. And I will say, to this day, they still have not filled that Southeastern position.
Yeah.
So it wasn't me.
That's why they didn't fill it, because it wasn't you.
So I fell in love with that. I was somehow involved with 3M. They have a whole traffic division apparently where they do all the tolls and stuff like that. So I was, interviewing for a position for that. And I got all the way to the final interview. And this just goes to show, if you're dedicated, what can happen. I got to the final interview and they said, hey, so we realized, it was the president of the division, we realized that you literally have 0 experience that's required for this position. And I said, I have said that every interview that I've had with you, and you keep pushing me through. So I want the position. I will learn anything that you have that you need me to learn. But no, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I know how to do any of that, because I don't right now. And so didn't get that. But it's funny how if you find the right people to talk to, you can kind of keep pushing through. But it's all for a reason, I believe. I think it's a plan. I think it's meant to be the way that it's meant to be. And that all lined me up for my opportunity with G-Technic. And, a company that had struggled the first go around, had fought to get the rights back, owned by the Brits, to kind of dabbling, trying to get it back again under their control, to, me basically one day picking up the phone and asking, do you need something? Because we had kind of had a good rapport, because we were looking at them for single source. And I said, hey, I'm leaving. Do you need something? And that's kind of how it all turned out to put me in that spot. And, we grew it thousands of %. And it was a really good and really beautiful time for me to take advantage of learning so many corners of, because I knew business, I knew distribution, nowhere near what I know today, and nowhere near what I will know in 5-10 years from now and 20 years from now. But it taught me a ton in a very fast amount of time. And, things that I look at, no matter what happened throughout the, it's something that maybe didn't make a bunch of sense to me then, and took a long time to get through. And now I know the quick solution, the quick fix, or the quick person to call. So, every aspect of my life, no matter where I feel like I am on the totem pole of 100% happy to scared crapless, you kind of find your place, and I think you have to realize that you got to push through, and more than anything, you got to ask questions, and you got to try to be a part of things. Because no one's going to just call you and say, do you want to do this? I mean, sometimes that happens, but versus someone who wants it, and that's what I tell everyone we hire here, everyone we interview. Look, I'm not going to sit here and tell you some BS about how this is the greatest job offer you're ever going to get, and you're going to be the most happiest you've ever been in a job here. And I'm not going to say that, because at the end of the day, I want someone to want to be here. If you want to be here, it is going to be the best damn job you've had. But if you don't want to be here, I can't force that. I can't teach that excitement. I can't teach dedication and things that make you live it and be a part of it. I can't do
You
that.
got to grow and learn that on your own. It comes with
Yeah,
maturity, right?
yeah. I'll do everything I can, and again, I still learn every day. I do not consider myself the all-knowing by any means. But passion, you can't teach it. And I say that at every interview. I say, look, we can teach you a lot of things. My guys can teach you a lot of things. We can't teach you passion. You got to have that already. And if you don't have it, then it's just not going to work. So I'd love to be able to teach that. I think there'd be a lot more. There'd be a lot more opportunities and people in the world to choose from. But it's something you have to have. So as kind of I worked through that initial experience and diving into the detail world as a whole.
Did you have to really wrap your head around like the process too? I mean, obviously taking on the position that you did with leading the North American market for that brand and really diving into detail. And I'm sure that was a lot to take in too on the process side of what detailers see. Because body shop industry, you started from the substrate up. Basically now you jumped into an industry that, takes off from where the body shop leaves off to refine and protect. So
so of course there's a lot of advantages in that, knowing the bottom half, but or bottom 3/4, whatever you want to call it. But it's a whole new world. I mean, there's no doubt, and it's a whole new respect and a whole new understanding.
Different people too.
Different. And I've said this a lot. I think the big difference. There's a lot of similarities, and I think that's only going to continue to get closer and closer as time moves on. But it's a funky world, because at the end of the day, I can right now myself or anyone can go to Walmart and buy a hose and a bucket, and you're a detailer. I mean, truly, one towel and
easy
some soap,
startup.
you're a detailer, and then I can put it in the trunk, and you're a mobile detailer. And then if you find the right spot, you could go get some training and become a ceramic coating professional installer. So the barrier to entry is significantly different than the body shop world.
Oh yeah. Closer to probably like lawn care.
Yeah. I'd say even easier. I mean, realistically speaking, to just jump into it. Yeah. With no experience, and people just kind of, if you got a better website than the next guy, you're probably going to get the job for a while.
Yeah. And how you present yourself and communicate. I mean, all those factors add up into getting more work, right?
Yeah. To where, the body shop world, it's a facility, it's a paint booth. If you're doing it right, it's, I come from the world where, to get an account, we would give them $100,000 to $150,000 for a paint booth to just win the business. And we get our rebates back from, PPG and 3M and those guys later on. So it is a totally different world in that aspect. The barrier to entry is almost, in my opinion, non-existent. The hard part's weeding through the good ones, which is for consumers and manufacturers alike, weeding through the good ones. Learned a ton about how to get product here and how to, get involved in a network and build a network and restructure a network. That kind of, it was Christmas 19, I guess. Yeah. To where I started, the transition happened for me, and I decided to take some time, and, I lost a lot of time with my wife, traveling a lot, car shows on the weekend. I mean, really
a lot of hard building. You hit the ground running with that. You did a good job at it. Don't get me wrong. The network for that brand is way better position than it was prior to you being in charge. Yeah. And I've seen that personally, one, being in the industry and being a part of it, but, knowing also so many, let's say, aspects of how all that evolved and transitioned and came about to be a better overall network.
Yeah. And no matter what, it was a team effort. I mean, I'll never say it was just me or just my connections. I mean, that team was, they're not all together still, but was and is a good team. And at the end of the day, more than anything, the easiest part of that job was the product was good. you know, of course,
They had background, right? They
now
had
I'm selling
years.
a much better product. No,
Great
but,
sales pitch, Andrew.
no, it's a good product, and you know, they've had a long time to build it, right? And
Yeah.
so you know, yeah, I learned a ton and kind of got into a transition where I really caught up with family, and it was all right when like Corona was happening, and so just things went crazy. I started. And my son, I had a brand new, you know, baby at the time, so he was
Yep.
born in November. So I mean, I feel bad for the next kid because I will never have that time at home between COVID and consulting only. And I'll never have that time at home again. I got to be a part of that life. And you know, we had lost our first, so we had a stillbirth, and that devastating, you know, reaction and trying to get through that was incredibly difficult for my wife and I. And
Oh yeah, that's a very hard. I've been
yeah,
there down that road, and it's not
it's
fun by any means for either
yeah.
party.
Yeah, and one more reason, you know, the detail industry is interesting is, you know, we've met people because we've talked about it, that, you know, you get to kind of discuss that feeling and experience, and yeah, never easy, but when we finally got that life, you know, earthly boy of ours, it really was great to take that time with my family and to be with them. And so then I kind of started getting back into some consulting, did a little, you know, help with Gion, and did a little help with at the time private, but it was Koch. And then, you know, originally it was kind of like just helping them figure out, sorry about that. Originally it was just helping them figure out, you know, how do we get into the US, and what can we do to get the thing launched here? And then it kind of turned into me saying, you know, hey, look, I really like you guys, and I'd love to work for you, and kind of vice versa, the same thing. Hey, we feel like you haven't been totally BSing with us the whole time, and you've got some good things to say. And so that kind of developed, and then an offer was made, and you know, I told them same thing I told you earlier. My goal is to work and retire here many years from now, hopefully, and, you know, get back on an ambulance maybe one day if I still got it in me. But you know, my goal is to be dedicated and bleed the colors of the company, and do everything in my power, personally, business, professionally, whatever, to make it happen. And
Now, where did they originate out of?
so yeah, Koch Chemie is in Germany.
Okay.
And Una, Germany. We have a facility there, you know, quite a few buildings. Everything we do is in-house. Every last product we make, other than pads, of course, you know, the foam and stuff.
What are you trying to say?
Yeah. Wait, we're not
You
that
got
good.
something to say about pads?
We're not that good.
But I know a guy, right?
Yeah, yes, you do.
Now, they've been around since when did their company start?
So it's been a little over few years over 50 years.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. So family started, you know, dissatisfaction with polishing and you know, items that were out there for wood and paint, other things like that. And, you know, really turning into an opportunity to try and make the best. And then, you know, now finally, thank God, I mean, because gosh, I was consulting for him for 6, 7, 8 months, whatever. And then I've been working for him for 8, 9, 10 months after that, until I finally, because of COVID, was able to go meet them. Never met them in person until that point. So they had a lot of trust in me. And of course, yeah, I had some trust in them, don't get me wrong, but
yeah,
it's easier to trust when a paycheck's coming, right? So it's their side.
Right, this is real. This is real.
I think their side was more difficult, and I'm honored and thankful that they were willing to put that trust in me. I think their side was harder than my side to trust. And trust, I think, is everything in business. Everything. There's a great book about that by Covey, The Speed of Trust. But, you know, that was enabled us to start what we started. And when we finally met, it only exploded that relationship and trust. Because at the end of the day, I don't care who you are, a handshake and an in-person conversation, drink, whatever, is more than you can ever do over a video.
Oh yeah, a couple drinks will get them real loose. Then you get to know who they really are.
Yeah, give me some stuff to hold them to for years.
Go from speaking professional to dropping F-bombs left and right.
Yeah, so it was great to finally meet them, see the facilities. I mean, just an incredible operation, huge, way bigger than I thought. You know, you got an idea, but you don't really know. And then it's exciting to know that you make everything in house. That's a really cool feeling and a really cool understanding, and to see how it's all done and bottled, and then, you know, put on a container and sent to us. And you know, we've got plans, 5-year plan to manufacture at least some product here. So
Nice.
it's a good, you know, strong future and organization. And yeah, I hope that in 10 years we supply everything north and south of us completely in Western Hemisphere. You know, that's a dream and a goal of mine, whether it's on paper or not for them. You know,
Now,
there's a
putting
fantastic
them
opportunity.
in a category to say, like, you know, some companies are chemical manufacturers that make protectants, and then some are protecting companies that started dipping. And protectant could be wax, sealant, coatings, whatever, you know what I mean? And then there are some protecting companies that are majority protected, but they also make some chemicals. This is more of a chemical company, correct? That the majority of their foundation is producing multiple levels of chemicals for car care, correct?
Exactly. Yeah. So I would say, of course, it hasn't done that in the U.S. per se, but our global and multinational footprint and understanding is polished compound. That is our bread and butter. That is what we do. That is what we're extremely good at. We have, you know, I won't get into the details, but we have a scary, powerful backing between the chemists, the doctors, and the, you know, reviewists over there. I mean, full lab, full production. You know, we do everything. Like I said, testing to manufacturing to planning to building to reevaluating and changing. You know, the names of the guys that the manufacturers they used to work for are very good, and we have them all under our roof. I'll put it that way.
Very nice. Well, that H9 is a serious compound, so that in itself is a staple. I mean, the whole lineup is, you know, stellar, but that H9 is something to speak for and be proud of.
He is a monster at creating polished compound, the guy over there. So yeah, it's just an incredible team they've built over there. But yeah, I would put that as our focus and forefront globally. Of course, here in the US, we experienced the exact opposite. The furthest thing from polished compound being soap, being our incredibly difficult to keep in stock product. Now, I'll give a little bit of that to the explosion from partners of ours, and also a little bit to, you know, we brought plenty of polishing compound over first, just expecting us to follow trends of the world. And of course, don't get me wrong, we're chiseling through that real quick, and we're reordering and ordering, you know, but the soap was just, I mean, the whole first 6 months of this operation, we were like, we can't get enough here. I was bringing entire containers of soap, you know, so, which is a hard pill to swallow with water weight and shipping. And
but now, are you experiencing any issues with the pandemic? I mean, a lot of people are, so obviously you're not the only one if you are.
Luckily, our issues have been extremely limited. So we have literally only the color of our spouts. So they're silver usually. Some of them have had to change to black, which I think we're already back to silver. Yeah, oh no.
Oh my gosh.
That, and then a sprayer that we use that goes onto our bottle or goes onto our spray bottle shorted. But no, as far as, of course, we've had raw material scares. We've had, you know, potential shortages, but no, I to this day have not tried to order anything that we can't get onto a container. Our issue is when the container decides to show up, fill, and then when the boat is able to actually get into port here in the US. You know, we'll go, oh my gosh, yay, it's right outside of Savannah, and then all of a sudden it's anchored for 3 days. And you know, so that's our issue, actually, is predicting the boat. So we've gotten really good at giving a flexibility, you know, span. So to understand, hey, okay, we need to ship this here so that we get it. You know, I've got 2 on the water right now, a third about to leave again, right behind those 2, and then, you know, a 4th right behind. So I would say in the beginning, we certainly were, you know, oh my gosh, we're out of this, you know, we're out of that, we're getting short on this. Now we're in a very good position. We've done the research and put the time in to understand how long this stuff is going to take. And then the good news is, it should continue to get better and better as crews get back onto ships and containers get back over there and get more available. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. But yeah, it's been a beautiful ride so far, and the entire line. I mean, just continually, we get phone calls about everything from polish and compound all the way to glass cleaner.
Like continues to impress.
Yeah, there's a
And it's
million
new.
processes. Yeah.
I mean, everybody loves new regardless, right?
Exactly. And that's certainly a help. And that's kind of what a cool thing about, a company like Koch Chemie and what we're able to do in the US with it, because they've been around for such a long time. Their periodic table that they have all their products on is massive. And that doesn't even include all the products that they make. So what's cool for like the US market is, and don't get me wrong, it's part of the plan, is that we get to have something new for probably the foreseeable future in terms of 2-3 years. I mean, we'll be continually saying, hey, new product. It's not new to Koch Chemie. It's been working for a really long time, but we can only bring over so much and so many new SKUs and so many new sizes at a time.
Yeah.
So that's been an exciting thing for me, because it's not just like, hey, we're here, try our stuff, hope you like it. It's
this is the line.
Yep, a continual, here's our new this, here's our new that. Keep trying, keep trying, keep trying. And I'm 100% confident the majority of people that try our stuff will like minimum 75% of it, and will make it their go-to. Minimal. But I think it can be much more than that. So
now, where are you guys at with the whole SEMA situation? Will you guys be attending, walking around? How's that working out for you so far?
Yeah, I decided to just scream and beat my head into a wall when I saw Buff and Shine was out. But other than that, we're still on target to go.
I appreciate that.
I was upset. That was one of the
only pad provider that would have provided a pillow to have you on the plane to be asleep. Because the guy with the My Perfect pillow that's all over, he's pulling out. So now we get to make pillows.
Not a bad idea. We just cut some. Honestly, you could probably just pay guys to send you their old pads. You can cut those up, stick them in there.
There you go. I've seen that actually for shipping, instead of using the little peanuts.
Yep.
And just cut up the foam, and there you go.
I have two. Yeah, there's a chemical company I know out of Texas, Wild. They use biodegradable edible peanuts. So I mean, you literally can like throw it in your mouth and it dissolves and nothing. Crazy. But,
now, I assume that obviously if SEMA went on, you guys probably would have had something cool to reveal. With that said, is that something that you may move forward into doing now more at like Mobile Tech or something in the beginning of 22?
So I think for us, I believe it's the 14th and 16th. Don't quote me on that. It's on our Facebook pages. But I believe we are doing, and again, don't quote me on what it is, but I'm pretty sure it is the replacement for Auto Mechanica. I could be wrong. It could be something else. But I think it's the 14th through 16th. We do our live updates and video releases and things like that in replacement of that show. So that's been announced. It's on our pages. So we'll do a little bit there, but that's more of a global focus, not necessarily a US specific. So SEMA, like I said, we're still planning on going. I doubt the borders are going to be open. I really wish they were, because the Germans still haven't seen the US location or anything in the US. Still haven't been here. So we're hoping that can happen and they'll be a part of it. But at the very least, we'll be prepared. We're going to go. If for nothing else other than strict manufacturer to manufacturer discussions, maybe a little bit more of direct to users, but we'll see how it goes. And yeah, as of this moment, we are planning on launching our ceramic at SEMA. We'll see it, if that still pans out and still looks like it's a great idea to do it there.
I'm in the back of the room. I didn't quite hear you. Did you say ceramic?
I did say ceramic. We've had a lot of questions about that.
We'll leave that for when it's released.
All right. So, but yes, that's the plan for there, and maybe a couple other products for the US market that have not been talked about yet that we're excited about. So we'll see how it pans out. But yeah, I'd say Mobile Tech will probably, the Florida one will do.
It's 1 o'clock.
I think it was my computer. We'll probably do the booth, there. And then we are talking about, of course, TR SEMA with the rag company. And then we're looking at doing it possibly will be next year, but definitely 23. We'll start doing a yearly event again to kind of do a lot of these announcements and launches and partners, things like that, for sure. So, yeah.
Now, with the time and everything,
Yeah.
We try to keep it within a good time. So we're right about that area. However, what would be some good resources if people wanted to get their hands on
Sure.
the products and know where to buy them? What is some plugs for that?
Yeah, so a real quick one is www.koch-chemie, so Koch-chemie.com. I will say it is a very confusing website if you do not know how to navigate it yet. So all you need to do is go over to products and hit detail. Forget everything else. Detail will show you exactly what you need to see. Aside from that, if you want to see an easier way to get to it, which is going to be updated in the next few weeks, so it'll be a totally new look, but we have a kcxusa.com, which is a little more product for the USA specific, but that'll be a lot more involved in the coming weeks. We've just gone through a bunch of big shareholder meetings and stuff that have greenlit a lot of things that are going to start changing for us. So yeah, and then of course Koch Chemie USA, Facebook and Instagram.
And I noticed that obviously, like other names out there, there's Koch Chemie, but there's other ways to say it, correct?
Yeah, so technically the proper way is Koch and then Chemie, but they miss the k in the middle. So it's just, I always say Koch Chemie because that's basically how they say it, because they just kind of skip that k sound in the middle. But the good news is we will, and I'd say probably within a year, maybe two, we'll be officially KCX. Will be our focused name, logo, everything. Yeah.
It's like when Rupes came to the market, it just didn't roll off everybody's tongue the same.
Rubies,
yeah. It was just one of those titles that, like, for some reason nobody could, you'd have to ask somebody directly.
Yeah.
But you never say it the wrong way in front of the Italians, though.
No.
No. Where did he go?
Exactly.
But how would people reach out to you if they wanted to kind of pick your brain on anything?
Yeah. So just, of course, I have a very complicated last name, but it's like Budweiser. That's the easiest way to remember how to do the EISER at the end. But it's, Andrew Werkheiser on, Facebook, Instagram, of course. And I'm connected to all of the Koch Chemie, pages. So I see just about everything. Facebook, we've been having some problems with. We got a lot of catching up to do because some stuff was going the wrong spot. But Instagram, especially, we can. But and then of course we have our phone number on our Facebook page, so you can call as well.
Awesome. And then any last words of advice that you could throw out there to people listening?
Oh man, I don't know.
I mean, you've given a lot. You're a man full of knowledge. Even at a young blood age. Hey, this guy's 30 years old. You see what you could do for 30 years? I don't know if all 30 of them are accountable for it, but
yeah, no, I appreciate that. But yeah, my motto is never be too proud to sweep the floor. And I think that's important in a number of ways. But I think whether you're a one-man band or multi, your focus should be growing. I see too many times the focus is I'm booked for 6 months. Cool. What can you do to be booked for only 1 week?
Yeah, how can you offset that?
And I know a lot of guys believe in being booked out, but at the end of the day, there's a lot of other businesses where if you can't get that dollar in within a certain amount of time, you lose the dollar. I think those are my things. But be dedicated and ask questions. That's how I've gotten where I've gotten. Is just asking questions, not being afraid to admit I need a mentor, and not being afraid to jump in and say, hey, do you need somebody? Because at the end of the day, I didn't have the job to begin with, so you might as well ask.
Yeah. 100% agree. And to add to that, I feel like there are some parts of that people get confused to where you get to a level of those goals you've reached and you own that area for a little while. It's okay to own that, because at that point, all that help that was given got you to that point, right?
Yeah.
But when you're ready for that next level, that's when you have to reach out again.
100%. I will never stop asking questions and needing new mentors. There are, again, my goal is to have people that are better than me in the room, always.
Well, awesome. Andrew, I appreciate it. And it was a pleasure having you on. It's always a pleasure talking with you and chatting. And hopefully when, everything starts to open up with these events again, it'll give us some time to get together. And outside of that, I appreciate you taking the time today out of your schedule and being able to tell your background.
Yeah.
Very inspiring, very cool to hear a lot of that. I didn't even know a lot of that background, which is really super creditable, with you especially coming on the scene with everything you've done in the past few years in the detail industry. Now people understand how much background you have and where you came from, which is awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
It's totally cool. So everybody out there, thank you who has taken the time to listen. Again, this is Reflection Artist Podcast. It's number 44, episode 44, however you like to say, with Andrew Werkheiser, CEO of Koch Chemie. And thank you, Andrew, and everybody at home. On behalf of Buff and Chime, thank you. And of course, you can find this podcast on all the podcast platforms. It's right now it's live on our Reflection Artist Facebook page. You can always revisit that, and or YouTube. So Andrew, I'll let you go finish out the day. Thank you, everybody at home or on the road, wherever you're at, whatever you're doing, in the gym, who knows. Cool, man. I'll talk to you later. All right.
Thank you. Appreciate
All
you.
right, take care.